Hey guys, welcome back to Anthony's Tennis Hub. My name is Anthony Hirsch, and today I'm going to go over the women's singles event at the Australian Open. I'm going to go through the draw, kind of giving my predictions and also just kind of an overall preview to the women's event at the Australian Open. I've already done for the men's side. That was in the last video for the Anthony's Tennis Hub podcast. This is another one for the women's singles event. And I'll kind of go match by match, giving my predictions. First thing I want to talk about, though, is that there were some notable withdrawals from the event. You had players like Petra Kvitova, who is out of the event. You also have Caroline Mukova, who's out of the event as well. Karolina Mukova. And then also Belinda Bencic is out. Also Andreescu, Bagu, McNally, Brady, Keys, Lauren Davis, who... I'm also constantly looking for a run for, but is also out of the event as well. A lot of big names there, especially Mukova and Kvitova, players who did very well at some big events last year. Very disappointing to see them out of the event, but either way, you have some really big names playing, like Ons Jabeur, Pegula, Coco Gauff, Rybakina, Sabalenka, and Iga Swiatek. So it's going to be very exciting either way. And yeah, I kind of want to go through the draw match by match and kind of giving my overall predictions. Well, first of all, we're starting with an absolute bang here with the first two matches, because the first match listed in the draw is Iga Swiatek taking on Sofia Kenin. And I don't know if Swiatek could have had a tougher first round, especially in a player of Sofia Kenin, who is such a player that performs in the big matches. She tends to perform when she's playing against a player like Sabalenka in Rome last year. She's not foreign to an upset. She's a major champion, of course. They've played one time before. That was at the French Open in the final a few years ago in 2020. So crazy to see this in the first round of the Australian Open. First time they'll play on hard courts. And it should be a good match, but I'm going to go with Iga. I think Iga is coming off of great momentum. This is the first time she's ever won 4 matches at the start of the season. This is also the first time that she won the WTA Finals last year in incredible fashion, just breadsticking and bageling Jessica Pegula, and then also beating Sabalenka in just as dominant fashion. So that's amazing. Sofia Kenin, she can beat the top players, but she can also lose to players that she has just no right to losing to. She's a bit up and down, and I'm going to go with Iga, especially because her motivations are so high to do well at the Australian Open this year. So even though she has the toughest possible name probably, or likely, that she could have drawn in the first round, I don't see her going out to anybody in the first round. Danielle Collins or Angelique Kerber. Kerber in her second comeback event, always defensive, kind of fun player to watch, super skillful, love her forehand, the way she can turn to defense to offense off that shot. And then you have just Collins, who's just an ever aggressive player. That's a pretty fun matchup. I would be wondering, have they played before in their head-to-head? So I'll be doing a little bit of the same thing what I did on the men's side as well, which is to look up the head-to-heads of players to have a little bit more of an idea of what I'm kind of talking about here. But Danielle Collins got to the final in 2022, and she's a player who, listen, when she's playing her best, she plays incredible. Even at the U.S. Open a couple of times, I've seen her play some amazing tennis. She picks it up at the hard court majors. They're 1-1 in their head-to-head, but the last time they played was 2019. This is just ridiculous. So, June of 2018, Kerber beat Danielle Collins 6-1, 6-1. And then January 2019, Collins beat Kerber 6-0, 6-2. Come on. Difference of 6 months later, completely different scoreline. Both players just losing 2 games to the other player. That's a bit strange. That's how Danielle Collins is. Kerber is consistent. Danielle Collins just up and down. And when she reaches those peaks, she's really tough to beat. I'm going to go with Collins. I like her at the Australian Open, and Kerber was playing really good tennis actually at United Cup, but I reckon that Collins is going to want to perform well at the Australian Open again, but that could be a really, really good early match. Then you have a wild card Kessler versus qualifier Ferro. To be honest, I'm not really sure about either of these players, but just naturally I'd go with the qualifier because they've already won 3 matches, so I'm going to go with Ferro. Neskova versus Boskova. Ooh, that's a really good early match as well. Pliskova taking on Noskova. Noskova just had a really good run, I believe, and lost to Rybakina in the semifinals of Brisbane, I would like to say. Yeah. She beat Mira Andreeva. She beat Kirstea as well on the en route there. So I might go with Noskova for the upset there. I'm gonna go with Noskova. I think she gets the win. Svitolina or Preston? I'll go Svitolina. Another wild card in Preston. Tomova or Day. I like what I've seen from Day. I'll go with Day. And then the next match we have Christian taking on Semiakova. I really like Semiakova. I think she's a blazing talent of a player. Amazing in doubles. She's picked it up in singles now as well. She's picked up a few titles. Love to see it for her. I'll go Semiakova. Golubic versus Kudermetova. I'm going to look up, what have Kudermetova's results been as of recently? I believe she won the Tokyo title in impressive fashion towards the end of last year, which was great. Beat Pegula there in the final. WTA Elite Trophy. What was that tournament like for her? She lost one match, won one match. Okay. Adelaide lost to Alexandrova. Kind of bit up and down. Lost to Potapova in Brisbane. Not the best start so far in the year, but I'll take her over Golubic. But Siniakova versus Kudermetova, I might go with an upset there. I have to see it. Ostapenko taking on Burrell. Gonna go Ostapenko. Ostapenko is playing some crazy tennis in Brisbane, which I love to see. And I think she just cracked the top 10 for the first time since 2018. So love to see it for Penko. She's brings a lot of entertainment value to the sport, and when she's high, she is so high. So Swiatek won't like it that Ostapenko is so close to her in her draw, because I believe Ostapenko is 4-0 over Iga in one of the weirder head-to-heads in the women's game for sure. But it's that kind of aggressive nature that I think can really test out Iga sometimes. So, like you see with Rybakina as well. Then you have Martic versus Tomljanovic. Loved how Tomljanovic was playing in some of her matches at United Cup. I'll go with Tomljanovic, especially with the kind of home crowd cheering her on. I kind of like to see. I like Tomljanovic there. And then for this next one, we've got Kenin versus Towson. Towson actually just reached the semifinals of the Canberra tournament, where she also beat the first seed in Golubic. Towson just lost, I think, 6-3, 6-0 to Kenin. She's on a bit of a losing streak at the moment. I think 3 or 4 or 5 matches losing streak. So I'm gonna go with Towson for the win. Towson for the win in that one. Then I've got Azarenka taking on Camila Giorgi, and Camila Giorgi is another one of these. I don't want to necessarily group them in because they are very different players, but another one of these kind of Azarenka, Daniel Collins type of players. Daniel Collins perhaps a little bit less up and down than the other two, but still, it's one of these players that are a bit up and down, and when they're playing great, they're playing amazing. But Azarenka is just, she reached the semifinals here last year. I thought she played a fantastic semifinal as well against Rybakina, where she just lost in the first set in a tiebreaker. Second set a little bit more straightforward. But she is a player who just loves hard courts. Azarenka loves hard courts. I love watching her on a hard court. I love that she's still around. She just had a great win over Ostapenko, speaking of Ostapenko, in Brisbane, and she played a fantastic tournament there. I don't see her going out in the first round. Navarro versus Wong. I'm going to go with Navarro. I like her. She's a dangerous player. Then for the next one, we have Cochereto taking on Sun. I'm going to go with the qualifier in Sun. Then we have Wickmeyer taking on Gracheva. I'm going to go with Gracheva. A lot of matchups here are either between unseeded or between qualifiers wildcards. But then we get to a seed in Vondrousova taking on Yamstremska. That is a good first round, because I really don't like how Vondrousova has been playing as of late very much, to be honest. She lost to a very high level Fernandez, finally fulfilling her potential, which I'm very happy about. Late last year, WTA Finals last year, she lost all 3 of her matches. She lost in straight sets to Ons Jabeur, straight sets to Swiatek, including a bagel. Lost to Coco, a little bit of a closer match against Coco. And the conditions there were unpredictable, but still it was not great against Kalinina in Beijing. A little bit better at the U.S. Open, but I don't know. Since around the U.S. Open, she just hasn't been there. Yamstremska is a Ukrainian player, one of the tougher qualifiers you can get, if not the toughest. I'm going to go with Yemstremska for the upset. Because I don't like how Vondrousova is playing. And that might just be one of those matches. Because Yemstremska, she's already won 3 matches through qualifying. And that could be an upset. Because I really do like Yemstremska and her play. Looking at some for other kind of events recently to get a gauge on how she's playing at the moment. But I think I might go with an upset there. For that one. We'll see what happens. I'm going to go with the upset, though. Rybakina or Pliskova, and that is, in my opinion, maybe the highest potential for an incredible match of any first-round match. Certainly one of 2 other ones. There's another one later that certainly is right up there as well. But it goes back to one of the Brisbane matches we just saw between Pliskova and Ostapenko, Pliskova and Osaka, just these different kind of epic matches. It's another Pliskova match, and she takes on Rybakina, and it's 2 hard hitters going against each other in Australia. Two players that have been at least major finalists. Rybakina has won a major. Ridiculous first round. We're going to see so many winners if both of them play at their best. Pliskova seems to pick it up when she plays against a big player like Rybakina. This is a tough match for Rybakina. Well, she'll have to be on the mark early on. I don't think, for example, at last year's Wimbledon, she was on the mark all the time in her first round, second round, so she'll need to be on the money right away. Hopefully she's not tired from, I believe, having just played Adelaide as well as Brisbane. I don't know why Rybakina played Adelaide. It seems like a strange choice to me that she even did that. She lost to Alexandrova, which might have been a good thing for her at the end of the day, because I don't know how you can be more confident or need more confidence in match play after already playing a warm-up event and having beaten Sabalenka, was up on her 6-0, 2-0, which is insane, 1-6-0, 6-3. Don't know why she needed to do that, but I guess she knows herself better. But anyway, she's coming in confident. She's coming in hot. I've got Rybakina coming through that. Then we got Pliskova taking on Buxa. I'll take Pliskova. We've got Maria taking on Osorio. That's a pretty good match. Osorio is a youngster who I think should be higher in the rankings. She's one of these players who's super talented and just super kind of crafty, flashy on the court, very quick. And I just like what she brings to the game. I don't know why she can't really find that consistency. Obviously, she's not one of these big-hitting players that are really ruling at the top at the moment. But still, I think she should be doing better than she is at the moment. That said, I'm looking at her results recently, and they're not really standing out to me as that impressive, to be honest. I know Maria has been having some pretty good results, so I'm going to go with Maria for the win there, although I really hope that Osorio can step up in her results. Then we've got Schneider taking on Paolini. Really love how Paolini has been playing in some for matches. And I'm going to go with Jasmine Paolini. Going to go with Paolini, the Italian, for the win in that one, I think. And then after that, we've got Kalinina taking on Ruse. I'll go with Kalinina. I like her as a player. Then we have Kalinskaya, similar names there, versus Katie Volynets, who's a tough qualifier to play. I believe she was like the second, third, fourth seed in qualifying. So one of the tougher qualifiers to play. But Kalinskaya is a very good player. One of the tougher unseeded players you could argue in the draw. So one of the tougher qualifiers versus one of the tougher unseeded players. But I'm going to go with Kalinskaya. So I'll have a Kalinina versus Kalinskaya second round. Sloane Stephens taking on Gadecki. I'll tell you what, I watched the Gadecki-Rybakina match that happened, I believe, in Brisbane early rounds. I loved how Gadecki was playing in that match. I believe it was like 4-4 and Gadecki had a break point. I mean, she was testing Rybakina pretty well. She was still fighting very well towards the second set as well. I loved how she was playing, but Sloane Stephens she's a major champion, and she's a major champion on hard court. So I'd be hard-pressed to pick against her, but I have my eye on Gadecki, who's a young, talented Australian player, and that made me have my eye on her for the rest of the year a little bit. Peyton Stearns versus Kazatkina, and I've got... Ooh, that's a tough one with Stearns, because Stearns, right out of college, she's playing some really good ball. And I'm trying to remember, she had a really good tournament at some point last year where I think she reached the final, the semifinal. I can't remember exactly where it was. I think it was a tournament in the States, which I'm trying to find now, but she played a good tournament somewhere. But with that being said, Kazatkina is playing really good ball at the moment. She's in the final of a tournament in Adelaide this week, although she got there with 2 withdrawals, which is not ideal, but anyway, hard to pick against her. Then I've got Zhang, Qinwen Zhang versus Kruger, and I'm going to go with Zhang. I think I might pick her for a deep run here. I have no idea, by the way. Outside of a possible champion I have in my head, I really haven't thought this draw through very much at all, so I'm kind of doing this in real time. But Zhang is just an absolute shot-making powerhouse, aggressive, and just an incredible athlete. Moves amazing. So once she gets that consistency down, which she really started to do ever since about the grass season last year, still adapting the grass season, trying to figure it out. That can happen with a young player. She has the aggressive game for the young player. She has the aggressive game for the grass courts, I should say. But as a young player, she's still kind of adapting to it. But it was ever since the grass courts, really, that her aggressive game was really being pretty consistent up to the end of the year, getting to the top 15 in the world and getting to the final of the WTA Elite Trophy as well. And then we have Katie Boulter taking on Yuan, and I've got Boulter coming through. Raducanu versus Shelby Rogers. Talking about another player who is a dangerous unseeded. Talking about another player who's a bit up and down, and I'm not talking necessarily about Raducanu. I'm talking about Shelby Rogers. There are points in her career where I've wondered, does she have the highest percentage of playing 3-set matches? Like, of her matches turning into 3-set matches of anybody on the tour? Like, it's kind of ridiculous. And then you have Raducanu, who's had so many struggles since she's won the U.S. Open. But she was showing a good ball against Svitolina. I tell you what, she was showing a good ball against Svitolina the first week of the year. And she's a player who has a lot of upside. When she's playing well, when she's physically there, mentally there, she has a lot of upside. With more experience, she has a lot of upside. Anybody who wins 10 matches at the U.S. Open is somebody to keep an eye on. I don't know if she's going to win 6-7 more U.S. Opens. She's going to be an actual world number. I don't know. But what I will say is I'm not discounting her. I'm still gauging what Raducanu can do, but I've certainly not counted her out from another big major run or something like this. We'll see if it happens here. But I've got Raducanu over Rogers, but that could be an interesting and unpredictable first round match. Wang taking on Cirstea. I've got Cirstea. Love how she's been playing. I'll be honest, at one point Cirstea was one of my favorite players about 4 or 5 years ago. She just wasn't winning that many matches. And I just love her game and how her strokes look, and I don't know, something, and now that she did so well at the Sunshine Double last year, where she got to the semifinals of both events and was performing as amazingly as she was, it's been so fulfilling to me. Also being Rybakina at the U.S. Open, it's been really fulfilling as somebody who saw that potential in her. Yet she didn't reach a single final in her 20s, I believe. She reached a final as a teenager, didn't reach a single final in her 20s, and then finally in her 30s is when she's finally reached a final, which is really rare, and you just don't usually see that in a player that to have that kind of a career and that kind of a trajectory. But that would be 2 big-hitting players in Cirstea and Raducanu in the second round. Love to see this kind of newfound form from Cirstea, because tennis longevity is different now. People are playing into their 30s. Djokovic on the men's side, 36, won 4 of the 5 biggest events of the year, won in straight sets in the finals there. Had some great competition for the year in Alcaraz and Sinner, in Medvedev. I mean, outside of the run that he had between Australian Open and Roland Garros, he only lost 1 event that he played the whole year in the ATP season, which is a true stat. That is a true stat. He won Australian Open, Roland Garros, US Open. He won Adelaide. He won in Cincinnati. He won in Paris. He won the ATP finals. He won pretty much every tournament that he entered. He didn't win Dubai. He didn't win in some of the clay events. He didn't win Wimbledon, but he won so many of the events he played at 36, which is crazy. And it's just this kind of longevity that you're seeing nowadays that is really, really, really impressive. And on the women's side as well. So I love to see these players playing for into a deep age. You had Serena beating the number 2 in the world at the U.S. Open just a couple of years ago. So I mean, listen, I love to see these players playing deeper. You got Stanislas Wawrinka on the men's side, also finally winning a major at 29 years old. Like, things are different now on the men's side and the women's side, and I'm curious to see how the young players play nowadays, like Alcaraz, like Swiatek, how late they're going to play. Because science is only getting better, and it'll be interesting to see how tennis longevity kind of changes and improves with that. Then we have Lin Zhu taking on Dodin. Really like Lin Zhu in her game. I think she's a very talented player. I'm going Lin Zhu. Then we have a qualifier in Zarazuwa taking on Trevisan. And I'm going with Trevisan for the win there over the qualifier. Burrell taking on Krunic. I'll go with Burrell. Marino taking on Pagula. Go with Pagula. That's a qualifier in Marino. Sakkari taking on Habino. I will go with Maria Sakkari. Bai taking on Venetian. I'll go with Bai. Kostuk taking on Claire Liu. Kind of speeding things up here with the first round. Kostuk taking on Claire Liu. That's an interesting one. How's Kostuk done lately? She looks really good at times to me, to be honest. In fact, she did perform pretty well this week. Yeah, that's right. She beat Taylor Townsend. In 3 sets, she beat Kalinina, which is a good win. She lost to Ostapenko, but it was a 7-5 set in the first set. Ostapenko was playing quite good. This week, let's see, what else? Yeah, Kostuk is playing pretty well. Won 3 sets with Samsonova. Had a close match against, actually beat Ons Jabeur. Is that right? At Beijing. That is right. That was her last event of 2023. I'll go with Kostuk. She's a pretty good player. Mertens taking on Sheriff. I'll go with Mertens. Lynette taking on Wozniacki. Love to see Kara back. Her ultra defensive kind of game. But listen, Magda Lynette is a great athlete, and she's just really solid. Love what Lynette brings as well. But I don't know. How's Lynette been performing? I don't think it's been exceptionally good, to be honest, from Lynette recently. Yeah, she's on a bit of a losing streak. I'm gonna say Wozniacki gets the upset over Lynette. Wozniacki is a champion here 6 years ago. Would love to see Kara have a run. To be honest, at the US Open against Kvitova, that was a match straight out of 2014. First time they had ever played was 2009. The last time they played before that match was 2018 WTA Finals. But she goes up against Kvitova, and they play an amazing match of 2 really tight, fun to watch straight sets. And not only does Caroline Wozniacki play defensive tennis to a high level, she plays offensive tennis to a high level, and that would work great in Australia if she can perform that again, because Australia does tend to play quicker than the US Open courts in New York. And also, not only was she playing good tennis, to me, in that match, at that last hardcore major, she was playing top 15 level, at least. So, great upset there. We'll see if she can get another upset in this tournament. I think she can get the win over Magda Lynette, who, like I said, didn't play since Beijing at the end of last year and hasn't had a great start to the year so far. So I'll go with Wozniacki for the upset. Elise Cornet in her 66th consecutive major on the women's side. Most of any active player, most ever. She has the record for most active, longest active streak of major appearances. Probably helps that she's not a Rybakina, Swiatek type who's going deep, or Sabalenka who's going deep at a lot of majors. Because if she's going deep, it only gets harder because that just means she's playing more and more tennis consistently. Consecutive stats are always just impressive, and they're almost unbelievable to a degree. Like, the fact that without any break in the middle, you can play major after major after major. Or even when you're winning a lot, like consecutive stats, like Federer reaching 36 consecutive Grand Slam quarterfinals. 40 is 1 year. Federer basically reached a decade's worth of Grand Slam quarterfinals in a row, not missing a single major in that period of time, reaching the last 8 every single time in like a decade straight. That is just unbelievable stuff. I don't think we'll ever see that again on the men's side, nor I would doubt that we'd ever see 23 consecutive semifinals, nor we would see, 18 consecutive Grand Slam finals and 19 consecutive majors. 18 major finals and 19 consecutive majors played for Federer. Amazing stat. Chris Evert has some amazing stats there, which are just amazing. I think she reached the semifinals in her first 34 majors that she played. Chris Evert, 34 consecutive majors. So some of the consecutive stats are amazing, but not just the winning stats, but Elise Cornet playing 6 in 66 consecutive majors ever since she was a teenager is an unbelievable stat. She says she has her farewell season this year. She's another one of these personalities on court that are a bit unpredictable, can add some entertainment value, a bit dramatic up there sometimes, but when she's playing her best, she can be a giant killer, and I have her winning through. She says it's her farewell season. We've heard shades of that before, but she's really fully announced it this year, so it could be the case, kind of like Feliciano Lopez last year, who also went on an amazing consecutive streak himself. And Grigor Dimitrov he has an amazing streak of, I think this is his 52nd consecutive Grand Slam appearance, which is just amazing. Dimitrov is so young, he could have a lot more in him if he stays healthy. Then we have Korneva taking on Sorribes Tormo. Korneva is a really talented Russian player. I went out of my way to watch the girls' singles final and the boys' singles final. Both great matches last year. I always do for the Australian Open. Korneva Andreeva, all Russian, 15-year-old young players last year. 7-5 in the third set. It was an amazing fight from both players, high level. Starting from that match, I followed both. I decided to keep an eye on both of them. And I remember after that match, Korneva won that match. They had a long hug at the net. Mira Andreeva was just crying for like 10 minutes straight. She looked completely just distraught. And then she just went on an absolute tear of it after that match. Korneva did not move to the Pro Tours like that. She's still on the juniors, but she's the best junior player. She was the best junior player in the world up until, I believe, like the Wimbledon US Open last year. Now she's playing the Pro. She qualified in, not a wild card, she qualified in, which, like I said, is more impressive to have already won 3 matches. And she'll take on Sorribes Tormo, but she won the girls event last year, and I reckon she could have a good chance, especially having already won 3 matches at the top level in this event. So, versus Sorribes Tormo on these kind of quicker courts, I've got Korneva, and I would like to see more of her as well. I've only seen her play that girls' singles final, but I liked what she showed in that match. I'm sure after a year of improvement, she's only better now. Another young player, Linda Fruhvirtova. I believe her sister is in this tournament as well. There's so many great young players. Even the world number 1, Iga Swiatek, she's pretty young as well, but she's already pretty much established herself. Mira Andreeva is somewhere hiding as well in the draw. But Linda Fruhvirtova taking on Beatrice Haddad-Maia. That is a good match. What have Linda Fruhvirtova's results been as of late? I've been looking at her sister Brenda, who played against Coco Gauff in the first week of the year. But yeah, I don't really know what Linda's has been. It's been okay, but not so good recently, to be honest. She lost to Emma Navarro in her first term of the year. She lost a couple matches at ITF level to end the year, which isn't so good, including to Sarah Irani, who's still around, still kicking, still playing. I believe she's in the draw as well, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm going to go Haddad-Maia. Linda Fruhvirtova seems to not be in her best form at the moment. Okay. Best match of the first round, in my opinion. This is an absolute blockbuster. I want to go Swiatek-Kenin. Even more so, I want to say Rybakina versus Pliskova. I don't know how in the world that couldn't be the best match, either one of those. But to me, Caroline Garcia taking on Naomi Osaka is just like one of those matches that would be in the draw if literally a fan made the draw. Like, that is the match that you're like, oh, well, that wouldn't happen, but that'll be cool, wouldn't it? We're getting it, and it's going to be so aggressive. It's going to be so fun. I don't know who the favorite is. If this was in 2023, I would say Caroline Garcia for sure. But Osaka played great in Brisbane. In her first event back, she looks a little bit looser. Caroline Garcia has been a little bit up and down. In fact, I'll also look up Caroline Garcia's results because I'm going on a bit of a blank. She lost to Swiatek at United Cup, I remember, in 3 sets. Lost to Ostapenko in Adelaide this week in 3 sets, okay. WTA Elite Trophy, she beat Madsen Keys, then lost to Haddad-Maia. She had a bit of a better run towards the end of the year, also in Beijing, lost to Swiatek in 3 sets. That is good. That could be an epic of epics, I'll tell you what. And part of what makes that one fun is I expect Rybakina and Swiatek to win their matches. I expect them to be close, but I have them as clear favorites. This one, I don't have a clear favorite. And you know what? I'm actually going to say Naomi Osaka gets the win. I'm going to choose Naomi. It's ridiculously close. Especially because Caroline Garcia could have played as well as she did to take a set off Swiatek. But she kind of went away in the second and third set. Swiatek was way out off her game in the first set. She wasn't making a lot of returns in, which is completely unlike Swiatek. And also wasn't making a lot of first serves in either. And she was just completely off her game. In the second and third set, she started striking the ball just amazingly. 6-1, 6-1, second, third sets. So Garcia's playing well, but she's definitely not in the best form of her career. Bit up and down, and I'm going to go Osaka for the win. Then we have Seville, a wild card, taking on Freck. I believe that's Daria Seville, who I believe used to be Daria Gavrilova until she married Luke Seville, if I'm not mistaken. I think that is the case. And that should be a good match. I'm actually going to go Seville, the qualifier, to get through that. I like Seville's game. Hopefully she can rise up in the ranks. And she used to be much higher in the ranks as well. I'm going to go Seville, the wild card, over the win, and she'll... If I'm right with the draw, with my draw, she'll have Osaka in the next round. All right, I'm going to speed up the first round picks a little bit here. And then next we have Putintseva taking on Zakharova. Zakharova has actually looked really good at some points when I've seen her play, but I'm going to go with Putintseva here. And then in the next one we have Yvonne taking on the 25th player in the world, 23rd seed, Potapova. Potapova has been some good players recently. Like, she's a little bit up and down. She retired in a match against Rybakina, I believe in Brisbane, after losing first set 6-1. So hopefully she's healthy. Hopefully she's feeling good. But that was after a 3-set win over Kudermetova. She beat on Jabeur in one of her last few events. So I'm going to go with Potapova. Then we have Fernandez taking on Bejlik, a qualifier, and Fernandez is in some of the best form of her life. I believe she's won like 13 of the last 15 matches she played, something like that. It's crazy. That includes the Billie Jean King Cup as well. She won a title last year. She reached the semifinals of the next event after that. I believe she lost to Caroline Garcia in the semis. She's in great form. I love what I'm seeing from Fernandez. She's a player who is so outrageously talented, and she's so fast. Like, her talent levels are extremely high. It's part of why she's a fan favorite to watch. She has an incredibly good fighter's mentality. You saw that at the US Open, where she beat 3 top 5 players, a lot of them in 3 sets, a lot of the matches en route in 3 sets. So I like what I see from Layla. She likes to kind of hype up the crowds as well. It's really good to see her kind of at the top. And it's really good to see from Fernandez. And I would say even after that US Open run in 2021, my eyes were very much on both Raducanu and Fernandez. But I almost was more curious about Fernandez in the short term, because beating 3 top 5 players en route to a US Open title, it just means so much. I was completely enthralled by the mentality she showed, by the talent that she showed. And she was probably a little bit worn out in the final. Still an incredible and well-deserved win for Raducanu. But I am very happy Fernandez at least is finding the form. I hope the same for Raducanu as well. I think Fernandez-Raducanu is one of those things that will always connect the two together, because they both broke out of absolutely nowhere in the most unlikely of fashion at the same tournament. And they could have a great rivalry. That final was so watched, not just because the storylines, because the tennis that both of the young players were playing at the time. I believe both were teenagers, or Fernandez just turned 20, something like that. And, you know, this is a rivalry of Raducanu, who plays so offensive-minded, and Fernandez, who's so crafty, slice and dice with her shot, so creative out there, a lot of skills, and just so quick. So I will hope to see more from Fernandez. And then we have Alicia Parks taking on Sniger, who is a qualifier. I'm going to put Alicia Parks through. I still think she's a great athlete and has some potential, a lot of upside with a powerful game. So I'm going to go with Alicia Parks there. And then I have Caroline Dolehide. And then we have Caroline Dolehide taking on Jean. And I would take Dolehide. She was playing incredibly good tennis in Guadalajara. Then we have Goff taking on Schmidlova. I'll take Goff. Jabeur versus, I'm going to butcher this, but Starodobtseva. I'm going to go with on Jabeur. Mira Andreeva taking on Pera. This could be a really good match, I'll tell you what, because Pera was playing incredibly good tennis this week. But I'm going to go with Andreeva. I think she's playing at a high level too, and I'm more confident about her week in, week out right now than Pera. She would be my pick on a best guess, but never know. Then we got, and that's going to be a tough match for Jabeur either way. Then we have Rakimova taking on Bektis. I'll go with Bektis. Then we have Pari taking on Wong, and I'll go with Wong. We have Alexandrova taking on Sigmund. And I'm going to go with Alexandrova, but that is a tough first round, and Coco Gauff knows something about that being a tough first round opponent. But Alexandrova has been playing really good stuff, and I love Alexandrova when she's playing at her best. Sarah Rani, who I mentioned earlier, versus a qualifier in Hunter. Sarah Irani is so funny, man. How old is she now? I mean, this is a player who's been top 10, top 5 in the world, I believe. Former world number 1 in doubles. She's almost 37 years old. She's been playing through the challengers. This is a player who loves tennis, clearly. Only player ever to reach a major final and then lose her very next match in a golden set. Which, if you don't know what that means, a golden set in tennis is when you lose a set without winning a single point. That is the very next set that she played after reaching the Roland Garros final, which partly shows the difference between clay courts and grass courts. But either way, that is hilarious. Sarah Irani is a legend. She's, I think, she's turning 37 in April. Playing through the challengers, love to see it from a player who used to be at the top. Against a qualifier in Hunter, I believe that's Storm Hunter, the Aussie, and I'm gonna put her through there, because also home crowd advantage helps as well, if nothing else. Korpatch versus Barrage. We're getting close to the end of the first round here. Hopefully things will speed up a bit. Krajicova versus Santama, I'll take that. Korpatch versus Barrage. I'll take Korpatch. Samsonova versus Anisimova. That's a really good first round. Great. I love Anisimova's peak, but right now I don't know if her consistency is there, and I do like Samsonova's peak as well, and I'm going to go Samsonova. But Anisimova, just how clean of a ball striker she is when she's playing her best. Very complete from the back of the court. Great backhands, great forehands. I think she saved a couple match points to beat Osaka here one year, which was amazing. Which almost makes me want to pick Anisimova now. I'm almost reconsidering. What have Samsonova's results been? And apologies for that. I keep kind of pausing to look, but I want to look at this a little bit. Samsonova just lost to Siegemund. She lost to Mira Andreeva. Those are her first 2 titles. You know what? I'm going to go Anisimova for the win. And I'm probably going to regret that, but you know what? I'll be frustrated if that happens. I don't pick it because she just lost to Laura Siegemund. Anisimova has played great at Australia. I'm going to go with Anisimova. Podoroska versus Zidansek. I'm going to go with Podoroska. It's probably not a high chance. Anisimova's only just coming back, but you know what? I'm just going to go with the upset there. That's the gut feeling that I have, so I'm going to go with it. Taylor Townsend versus Badoza, another really good first round. I love Taylor Townsend, what she brings at her best, let alone the hand skill she has, the power, it's great. Doubles prowess. I'm going to go with Badoza, though. I hope Badoza has a good, strong 2024 season. Be good for tennis. Good addition to the women's game. Pavlyuchenkova versus Donna Vekic. Pavlyuchenkova's been playing pretty well. I'll go Pavlyuchenkova. Tsurenko versus Bronzetti. I'll go Tsurenko, this 28th seed. Mazurova versus Sasnovich. I'm going to go Sasnovich. Bogdan taking on Brenda Fruhvirtova, the other young player. This is a player who's 15-0 in ITF tournaments. She's 16, which is one of the more ridiculous stats in tennis, I think, maybe, period, where people really understand what that means. At the lower tiers of the tour, obviously, it's nothing compared to the very top of the pros, but it's still something in terms of it's incredibly impressive. Be 15-0 in finals. Incredible winning ways from Brenda Fruhvirtova. We'll see how she is able to stand up versus these kind of top players. But against Bogdan, I'm going to go with Brenda Fruhvirtova. And she might have a chance to play Sabalenka like she had a chance to play Rybakina at the French Open last year at Roland Garros. Okay, Sabalenka. First round is complete. Over to the second round. So back to the top. Swiatek taking on Danielle Collins. Very tough draw for Swiatek. I mean, Collins and Kenin are about 2 of the tougher opponents you can get out of players who are unseeded. Of course, if you're a seed, you're going to play unseeded players. That's about as tough as it gets if your name isn't Naomi Osaka. So I'm going to go with Swiatek over Collins, but those are 2 tough opponents. Ferrer or Noskova, I'm going to go with Noskova. Svitolina or Day, I'm going to go Svitolina. Kudermetova or Siniakova. I'm going to go Kudermetova, but that could be a really good match. Ostapenko versus Tomljanovic, going to go Ostapenko. She's playing amazing aggressive tennis. Azarenka or Towson, Azarenka. You see things have kind of speeded up a little bit. In the first round, I kind of look up a lot of players. It might take a little bit longer, but anyways, kind of speeding up. Navarro or Sun, Yastremska or Gracheva. I'm going to go with Yastremska for a bit of a run here to the third round. Rybakina or Blinkova, going to go Rybakina. Paolini or Maria, I'm going to go Paolini. Kalinina or Kalinskaya, the 2 namesake players, very similar. I think it was Kalinina who's been playing really strong recently. If I could look at that real quick. I was looking it up, but no, it's Kalinina who's lost a few matches recently. Yeah, Kalinskaya, I think. At her best, she's one of the more dangerous kind of unseeded kind of players Yeah, she's been playing well. She just beat Krejcikova in Adelaide, which happened this week. So, yeah, for sure I'm going to go Kalinskaya with the upset over her namesake Kalina. Kasatkina versus Stevens. Have those two played before is my question. Has Kasatkina or Stevens played? By the way, guys, we're a little bit through the draw. Don't forget to subscribe to Anthony Send Us Up if you are new. We do a lot of this and a lot of other tennis content. Hopefully going to speed up a little bit through this draw, but want to look up. Stevens is 3-1 over Kasatkina. Wow. But they haven't played since May 2021, and that's the only time they've played since 2018. So just not a lot of matches played, to be honest. So that makes me think that Kasatkina might have the upper hand. I'm going to go Kasatkina, but that's a tough one for Kasatkina. Stevens is always one of the tougher names in the draw, whether she's top 5, top 10, whether she's defending U.S. Open champion, or if she's unseeded. She can play amazing. Gonna go Kim Won-jong over Bolter, but Bolter's tough. Another UK player in Raducanu taking on Cirstea. That is tough. Raducanu or Cirstea. You know what? I'm gonna go with Raducanu. I think Raducanu gets the win there. I'm gonna say Raducanu has a decent run of it, at least to the third round, where she might play another super aggressive player in Zheng. That's a crazy run for Raducanu there, from Rogers, then Cirstea, then to Zheng. All players of kind of similar ways in some way. Trevisan or Zhu, Lin Zhu, love Lin Zhu and what she brings. I'm going to put in Lin Zhu, Burrell or Pegula. Going to go Pegula, ever consistent. Zachary, ever tough, gritty, a gritty player, passionate player in Zachary for sure. I'm going to go Zachary. Mertens or Kostyuk. I'm going to go Kostyuk. With the upset over Mertens, Wozniacki or Cornet, both wild cards, with two very different stories in this tournament. Could be Cornet's last Australian Open, never know about Wozniacki. I'm going to go Wozniacki. I'm going to say Wozniacki keeps up her run there. Korneva or Haddad Maya. I might go with something crazy here. What is Haddad Maya's kind of results recently? I might go with a big upset here. She just lost to Pavlyuchenkova, although she did win the WTA Elite Trophy. Pavlyuchenkova seems to be playing well. No, I'm not going to do it, but I liked what I saw from Korneva here in the girls' event last year. And if he can play well in the girls' event, especially against a player who's already playing as well as Mira Andreeva, even though she was 15, but then she got to the, Madrid semifinals, I believe, quarterfinals, pretty much like a couple months after that. So, I like Korneva from what I saw from her. I'd be interested to see that match and see more of her, but I'm going to go Haddad Maya. Osaka or Seville, going to go with Osaka. I'm going to take her to the third round, which would be great for the women's game. Putintseva versus Potapova. Going to go with Potapova, who, like I said, has had a few good wins recently. Over players like Jabeur, Fernandez, or Parks. Going to go with Fernandez. That could be a fun, contrasting matchup, though. Two good athletes. Goff or Dolehide. That's a good round. That's a good match. But Goff, that might be 3 sets, but Coco is just so mentally solid, even if she is tested in the early rounds. I see her getting through that. Ons Jabeur or Mira Andreeva. That is a fun matchup. Big difference in age there. Not that Jabeur is too far up there, but Mira Andreeva is only 16. But have they played before? I don't believe they have. Jabeur or Andreeva, yeah, they have not played before. That could be tough for Ons. That could be a tough match for Ons in the second round to play Mira Andreeva. Mira Andreeva won 3 consecutive breadsticks at the start of the year. Her first wins this year were like 6-3, 6-2, 6-3, 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, like crazy stuff. Then losing to another young, talented Czech player named Pliskova. But what have Jabeur's results been like recently? I know to some extent, but okay, lost to Swiatek in the WTA finals. Yep. Beat Vondrousova, lost to Goff very handily. It's not been that great, to be honest, from Jabeur. I'm going to go with the upset. I didn't do that many upsets for the men's side. I'm going to go Mira Andreeva over Ons Jabeur. Bektis or Wong, I'm going to go with Bektis. I do like Bektis. To the third round, Alexandrova over Hunter. Almost done with the second round as well. Korpach or Krejcikova, going to go with Krejcikova. Anisimova or Podoroska, going to go with Anisimova. That would be amazing for her to get to the third round at the moment, especially with a big win the first round, if that does happen. Pavlyuchenkova over Badoza. Ooh. Is this Badoza's first match since... No, Badoza... Okay. Yeah, that's right. She had a bit of a comeback last year, I believe. Is that right? When's the last time Badoza played a singles match? Okay. So she played in Rome last year, that's right. She played at Wimbledon, but she had a walkover. And then, first match since Wimbledon this week in Adelaide, where she lost to Bernarda Pera, but Badoza was playing well. I'm going to go Badoza. Going to go Badoza to the third round. Badoza and Nisimova is a crazy third round. That's shown up in my draw for me. Tsurenko versus Sasnovich. I'm going to go with Sasnovich for the upset. Brenda Fruhvirtova over Sabalenka. That's a great matchup between the defending champ and a young player coming up. But the result for me is obvious, and that's Sabalenka. Brenda Fruhvirtova played a pretty good start against Coco Gauff, was up a break there. Almost up another break later on, but then Coco Gauff kind of ran away with it. So she can play well. She was also up a break in both sets against Rybakina at Roland Garros last year. So especially on clay courts, she can play well. But I think she has more of offensive potential than her sister Linda, which I would mention as well. Her forehand, I love her stroke on her forehand. If she could find a more of an aggressive nature, get away from that buggy whip forehand, she could be very good. Obviously needs to be a little bit less defensive off backhand if she wants to be able to test somebody like Sabalenka. But on these kind of fast Australian courts, I don't think she'll have anything for Sabalenka, to be honest. Third round, round of 32, Swiatek versus Noskova. I'll go Swiatek. I think that's going to be an easier match than her first round or her second round, but Noskova's playing really well. Like I mentioned, she beat Mira Andreeva. She's an underrated young player, underrated Czech player in a tour that is full of great Czech players at the moment. I'd like to watch that match too, because to be honest, I haven't seen enough of Linda Noskova, but from what I've seen from her, she's really good. So, and has some good potential on her. Svitolina or Kudermetova. I'm going to go Svitolina. Reached the final in the first week of the year. She's playing good tennis. Ostapenko or Azarenka. That's a rematch of Brisbane. And you know what? That's a rematch, and Ostapenko is going to be intensely motivated, have another good run at a major. She just reached the top 10. I didn't think I'd do this. I thought maybe I'd give Azarenka a bit of a run, but I'm going to go Ostapenko. When Ostapenko is playing her best, she is tough. Azarenka is the two-time champion here. She reached the semis last year, but I don't know. She's already played a lot of tennis in the first couple events of the year, and I like Ostapenko, and she's going to be motivated by that revenge win, so that could be just a bad draw for Vika. Bad draw for Yelena Ostapenko too, but I'm going to go Ostapenko. It's very close in Brisbane. Navarro, and she had a really good win over Pliskova as well. And she won a major more recently than Azarenka did. I don't know if she'll win a major here, but I don't know. I'm going to go with Yelena Ostapenko there because I think that when she's playing her best, it's amazing. Navarro versus Yastremska. I'll go with Emma Navarro. That'll be great for her. Fourth round. Rybakina or Paolini. Go with Rybakina. Kalinskaya or Kasatkina. I'll go with Kasatkina. Kim Jung versus Raducanu. I'll go with Jung. Both very aggressive players. That's a good third round run for Raducanu if she does it. But Jung has been playing amazing tennis. Like I said, WTA Elite Trophy final. Just a couple titles, or a title in the second half of last year, right before the US Open. She's playing good ball, and like I said, she's just a phenomenal athlete. I think she'll like the pace of these Australian Open courts. Lin Zhu or Jessica Pegula. Ooh. Jessica Pegula. Pegula's lost a couple matches early on in the year, which have been a little bit strange. Well, she withdrew out of Adelaide. She lost to, who was it? I believe it was to Katie Boulter at United Cup. I believe that's right. I can look that up real quick to make sure, but I believe that's it. Yeah. Boulter versus Pegula. Boulter down a set. First set she should have won, but she won the match anyway. Lin Zhu is tough. I could imagine an upset there, but I gotta go JPEG because JPEG is consistent. I'll go with JPEG. Sakkari or Kostyuk. Sakkari or Kostyuk. Could Kostyuk pull an upset there? That's my kind of question. She's a dangerous unseeded. Is Kostyuk. Because she can play a really good ball. Kostyuk can. Like I said, she beat Jabeur. I believe she beat Kudermetova recently as well. She's beaten some good players, but I gotta go Sakkari. Because Sakkari was showing a really good ball in United Cup. I'm gonna give Sakkari the benefit of the doubt. Wozniacki or Haddad Maia? You know what? Haddad Maia lost a bad first for her. She lost out of a bad loss in her first event of the year. I'm gonna go with Wozniacki to kind of crazy fourth round run here. She likes the Australian Open. I'm gonna go Wozniacki to the fourth round. Osaka or Potapova. I'll go Osaka as well. I'm giving Osaka and Wozniacki kind of runs here, and I didn't know what I'd do, but I'm giving them a few runs here. I don't know how far they'll go for the rest of the tournament. In fact, I'm looking at one as potentially a loss in the next round, at least. Fernandez or Goff. As soon as the draw came out, I realized that this could be a match, and this is a match I want to see. Two of the best mentalities on tour, in my opinion. Two incredibly talented players. And two players that have been so improving, especially at the end of last year. Would love a match between these two, especially if it goes 3 sets. I can't bet against Coco, though. She is so motivated. I don't think pressure is going to be a huge issue for her because she's had pressure all of her career. So I'm going to go with Coco, but I'd love to see Layla do something there and have a good run as well. Mira Andreeva or Bektis. I'll go Andreeva to her second, fourth round of a major. Second week of a major, which is very hard to say for some reason. And then next up for third round, I have Alexandrova taking on Krejcikova. And I've actually got Alexandrova getting through that. She beat Rybakina this week. She's playing a really good ball. I like her at her best. Krejcikova, like I said, a little bit up and down, in better form, especially towards the end of last season, but still not at her absolute best. I got Alexandrova getting through that. Then I have Anisimova versus Badoza, which would be a great fun kind of contest there between two players who are coming back. Anisimova a little bit longer away from the tour, but this will be a great run for Anisimova, even to get this far. Even for Badoza would be a great run as well if she could make it to this point. But for myself, I'm going to go with Paula Badoza to the fourth round of the event. I think, Badoza was like pretty much a mainstay top 10 player when she was like around. So at the top, before she was dealing with a lot of different things and dropped out. So I think she can climb up back, because if Badoza can bring her top tier of play, Anisimova lost 6-1, 6-1 in her second match back. Perhaps I shouldn't even have her in the third round, but I kind of have a feeling about Amanda, and I like how she's played at Australia in the past. And we'll see. We'll see what she can do. Samsonova is in her best form, but Badoza I have getting ahead and beating Anisimova. Badoza to the fourth round. Last third round encounter before the fourth round. Sasnovich taking on Sabalenka, and I've got Sabalenka. There's not much to say about that. We'll see if I go for Sabalenka for the title, but I really don't feel that she's going to be beaten by anybody in the first 3 rounds. She's going to be very determined to defend her kind of title here, and she was playing amazing last year with, I think, 51 winners in the final versus Rybakina, just 20-something errors. She was playing incredible and serving amazing. Okay, and then fourth round, we've got Swiatek taking on Svitolina, and Swiatek's draw just doesn't get any easier. A ridiculous draw, no matter who's winning in the matches below her. It's so crazy. But Swiatek's Svitolina, let's see, they're 1-1 in their head-to-head. They played in 2021 in Rome, and Swiatek got the win 6-2, 7-5. Then they played last year at Wimbledon, of course, and Svitolina won in 3 sets. Not much to tell from those matches, because Swiatek on clay is going to be very hard to beat, and Swiatek on grass courts just isn't what Swiatek is on clay courts or hard courts to this point in her career, and Svitolina likes the grass, but it's just, especially from Swiatek's perspective, clay and grass very different. It's going to be more interesting on hard courts. Svitolina is certainly going to have a shot at it. Neither player, Rybakina or Sabalenka, this isn't going to be like a Australian Open final type match that we had last year, but it could be a really epic match anyway. And I kind of think Iga is going to get it. And Iga's been serving really well too. I love how Iga's been serving at WTA finals. It even seems like she's been tinkering with the serve. I think that even she could have a few 3-setters early on, but I don't see Iga losing. She's going to be determined. That said, she wasn't the most consistent player at the majors last year. She lost 6-4, 6-4 to Rybakina. I believe it was a fourth round or quarterfinals at Australia. And then also she lost to Ostapenko, I believe in the fourth round as well at the US Open. At Wimbledon, she lost as well in the quarterfinals. So, she wasn't as consistent as, say, Sabalenka last year, but she's going to be determined to change that. She's going to be determined to have a good run at Australia, especially the momentum from WTA Finals. But yeah, 2 WTA Finals champs going at it in the fourth round, and I have Swiatek getting it. Ostapenko or Emma Navarro. If Ostapenko gets to this point, I have Ostapenko trudging through. She's a top 10 player now, and she is tough. Ostapenko-Swiatek quarterfinal is my pick. And man, I really don't know where I'm going with this, so I'm still yet to decide. Rybakina or Kazakina, I'm going Rybakina. I feel confident about Rybakina, and I'll talk about Rybakina a little bit more later on, but I feel confident about Rybakina. Kim Jung or Pegula. I've actually got Jung. Like I said, Pegula lost to Katie Bolter at the United Cup. She had a great end to the season last year, but we'll see if she can do the same at majors. It hasn't been her best so far. Her best performances so far. And Jung is just playing amazing. I really think she'll like the quickness of this court, so I've got Jung taking that one. Sakkari or Wozniacki. I've got Maria Sakkari taking down Caro in the 4th round. Incredible run. If Caro can do that, where she's had so many good performances in the past. But Sakkari, who's also just, I don't know, a bit of a, she's just also a passionate player like Wozniacki. She'll be fighting too, and I don't know. I've got Sakkari ending that if Wozniacki's to get there. If the seeds get there, then it would be Haddad Maia versus Sakkari, and that could be a very good match as well. And then Osaka versus Coco Gauff. That would be a crazy match. Here's the thing about Naomi Osaka. Right from the start, it's been obvious she can still just strike the ball amazing from the back of the court. Winners from the back of the court off backhand, off forehand, off the serve. She hit 40 winners in 12 unforced errors against Pliskova, and she lost that match. Probably the best match of the year so far. Tomljanovic-Kerber in a very different way could be up there as well, but Osaka Pliskova was just unbelievable. Pliskova-Ostapenko was good as well, but it didn't have the kind of athletic rallies that you saw from Osaka and Pliskova, and even though there's endless winners in the Ostapenko-Pliskova match, I felt like oftentimes they would hit some shots early in the rallies that would give the other player an opportunity to attack the ball. In Osaka versus Pliskova, I just felt like it was attacking shot versus attacking shot. Just an amazing, effective kind of aggression throughout the whole rally, and it was just amazing to watch it at that high of a level. Thing was, though, Osaka, I believe, converted on maybe 2 or 3 of 11 break points, whereas Pliskova broke Osaka, I believe, 5 or 6 times. It was a big difference there. Osaka's mental game is still the thing I'm most unsure about, to be completely honest. Even though the ground strokes are working, the mental side has to be there, especially against a player as tough as Coco Gauff. And if we get there, I have Coco getting the win. Mira Andreeva taking Alexandrova. That could be a lot of fun, but Alexandrova slightly more experienced, and like I said, she's playing such a good ball at the moment. I mean, let's look at Alexandrova's fast few results before I kind of push her to the end of this tournament. In Adelaide, today she lost to Ostapenko, but she beat Rybakina, but she beat Kudermetova, she beat Magda Linette in a close match. Ostapenko is playing amazing at the moment, so I feel happy about that. And then what else? Her last couple events before that, she hasn't been playing as well, though in Beijing she lost to Gauff in the first round, so I don't know, a little bit up and down before that, to be honest, though. What have Andreeva's kind of results been to end the year last year? I kind of know it this year, but Andreeva, let me see. In Brisbane, 6-2, 6-3 over Diana Schneider, 6-2, 6-1 over Samsonova, 6-1, 6-1 over Rodionova, lost to Noskova. Hong Kong, lost to Leylah Fernandez. Beijing had a good run out as well, beat Krejcikova, beat Kalinskaya. Only lost to Rybakina in 3 sets. You know what? Looking at that, I actually changed my mind. I'm actually going to put Mira through to the quarters. I actually, looking at that, I changed my mind, which is why I want to look at stuff like that. Overall, last few results, better for Mira Andreeva, even though Alexandrova had a good tournament this week. Also, Rybakina, I'm sure, was a bit tired today. Like, her performance against Alexandrova was not like the performance before that, even though Alexandrova played well. I'm sure Rybakina would be happy to just move on to Australian Open. Badoza or Sabalenka, I've got Sabalenka, but they've got a funny friendship. That'll be a fun match to watch. But I've got Sabalenka. That'd be a good run for Badoza. I don't know if there's that much to say about it. They played in Stuttgart on the clay last year. Fantastic match, where Sabalenka won in 3 sets. That was one of the last kind of matches Badoza played before 2024. And then I'm looking, they also played at Stuttgart the year before that. Sabalenka also won. I've got Sabalenka coming through here on the Australian Open quick hard courts. And then we've got the quarterfinal set. So Swiatek taking on Ostapenko. And the question of the hour is, am I going to do it? Am I gonna pick for it to happen again in the second major in a row? Because I really don't know, right? I didn't really think that much about this match. I wanted to think about it more when I do this draw preview. And I believe Ostapenko's up 4-0 on Swiatek, so those are the stats. Let me look at the matches exactly as they happen. So it's been almost won every single year. U.S. Open last year was 3-6-6, 3-6-1. Ostapenko just next level in the second and third sets. Then in Dubai, Ostapenko won in a third set tiebreaker. That was following when Swiatek was playing some really good ball, just dominated an event in Doha, and coming into that. And then Indian Wells the year before that, 6-4, 6-3 over Swiatek, then 2019 as well. 2019 matters less, 2021 doesn't matter as much, 2022 or 2023. Their match in Dubai in 2022 was very, very good. And sorry, excuse me, I made a mistake. Their match in 2020 in Dubai was in 2022. I was thinking of last year. But still, Swiatek was playing really, really good. That was right before she kind of started her amazing winning streak, so she was in good form anyway. But, yeah, Ostapenko from down a set in both the last two matches as well, which is a really big stat, that Ostapenko can fight like that. Ostapenko is playing a good ball. Swiatek's going to have a lot of pressure on her. She is 4-0 up in their head-to-head. You know what? I'm going to do, it looked like I was going to do the Ostapenko upset. I'm actually going to do a reversal, another twist of a twist, and I'm going to say Swiatek gets her first win over Ostapenko. I was gonna choose Yelena real closely there, but I'll say Swiatek is gonna be real determined to get to her second Australian Open semifinal, looking for her first final. She'll already have a lot of good match play coming through tough players there. And, Ostapenko's playing good ball. She already had a win over Osaka though, had a win over Pliskova. She's played a lot of tough matches. I say that Swiatek is going to be able to cross that hurdle, and Ostapenko's not going to be able to beat Swiatek for the fifth time in a row, and for the third time in the last 2 years. Especially because the second to last time was so close, right? 7-6. And that was before Swiatek started her amazing win streak. I say Swiatek gets it done and figures it out. Swiatek gets her first win over Yelena Ostapenko in a big upset, and gets her first win over Yelena Ostapenko. Great win for Swiatek in my draw. Rybakina versus Zhang. That was unpredictable for me. I really thought I might go with the upset. Rybakina versus Zhang. That is huge hitting on huge hitting. But I'm going to go with Rybakina. She's defending finals. She has that motivations. Zhang is yet to reach a major semifinal. Is that right? How far did she go at the U.S. Open? She either went quarterfinal or semifinal. She beat Jabeur on route, but I can't remember if she reached the semis or the quarters. Okay, it was the quarterfinals, that's what I thought. Lost to Sabalenka. Yeah, she lost to Sabalenka 6-1, 6-4 at the U.S. Open. I predict her losing to Elena at this tournament, especially with the motivations Rybakina will have. And generally, these two have two of the highest peaks on the tour, in my opinion, but especially Rybakina. I mean, if she's playing at her best like she was playing in Brisbane, I mean, even if Zhang is playing her best, it's just like, this is a player you don't want to go against. I think it's aggression that's a bit more consistent than Zhang, and I've got Rybakina. Even though it's consistent, but it's hitting the lines, it's so elegant, the footwork is there. It's like perfection on a tennis court when Rybakina is playing at her best level. Sakkari versus Coco Gauff. I've got Coco Gauff coming through. Gauff is just such a top tier, such a big talent, and she still needs improvements on the forehand, absolutely, even with the improvement she did have last year, but I think she can beat Sakkari, and I think that's a good route to the semifinal for her. Mira Andreeva versus Sabalenka. I've got Sabalenka. That was already a match, I think, in Madrid last year on the clay. I've got Sabalenka getting through that. She's the more experienced. Could go 3 sets, though. Who knows if Mira can get that far, but Mira's first quarterfinal. Sabalenka will be ever so determined to get to the semifinal and to the title. Swiatek versus Rybakina, and Gauff taking on Sabalenka. Nearly had Ostapenko in here, and I think you saw that, but it is the top 4 who get to the semis on my women's draw predictions. Swiatek taking on Rybakina. I have Elena Rybakina beating Swiatek like she did last year, and I think it will be closer than it was last year. I think it will go 3 sets, not 6-4, 6-4. But I really like Rybakina against Swiatek. She has a good head-to-head against Swiatek. She is defending finals. They're both going to be motivated. Rybakina to defend her first final at the Australian Open, Swiatek to try to reach her first final at the Australian Open. And it is a big contrast of styles, the way they play. It would be a great match. but I think Rybakina is winning now over Swiatek in their head-to-head, and in fact, I'll look up exactly what their head-to-head is. Rybakina also beat her on outdoor hard courts at Indian Wells. 3-1 for Rybakina over Iga. Three of those matches came last year, and she won all of them, even on Rome clay, where Swiatek retired out, but Rybakina was playing really good, even on the slow Rome clay, which was so impressive. All the matches that they played, either in 2022 or 2023, or since 2021, I should say, Rybakina's won 3 matches last year, so I'm going to pick Rybakina over Swiatek. I love how Rybakina played in Brisbane. I had good feelings about her. I said I'd talk a little bit about Rybakina. I've talked about her in other videos, but she had a year of really good success. She found her way into the top 10 early in 2023. She won in Rome on the clay courts. She got to final of both Sunshine Double events, final of Australian Open. She won Wimbledon. She had a year of just crazy good success. Then she slowed down a bit, which is fine. I think that's fine. I think she brings such a peak level when she's playing her best. I love her at these courts. I got Rybakina and then Sabalenka taking on Coco Gauff, and that is a rematch of the U.S. Open final. And I actually don't know which way I'm going to go here. Actually, I do. And it might be a rematch of last year's final. I didn't know that would be my prediction going in, but it kind of makes a lot of sense. When two players play as well as they did in the final last year, and it's hard for the next year for any players to beat them when they can show that they can play at such a top tier at this event. Gauff versus Sabalenka, I could imagine Coco winning again. I really could. Sabalenka's forehand is incredible. We'll see if Coco can have a performance like she did at the U.S. Open, so motivated to get her first major. But I think Sabalenka is going to be motivated to defend her title, to get revenge over Coco, who in her mind probably stole a U.S. Open from her. And Sabalenka is going to be ever determined. I've got her in the final. Sabalenka versus Rybakina. That's my final. It's a rematch of last year, an amazing final last year, where there's a pretty straightforward second set, but the third set was amazing from both. Sabalenka, definitely the better player of the two, though, but it was really close throughout. Amazing hitting from both. Rybakina with over 30 winners, Sabalenka with over 50 winners, both players barely hitting errors, and really, really good stuff. Rybakina won the first set. Everybody thought the Wimbledon defending champion was going to win her first major, but then Sabalenka started playing incredible, and then it just seemed like it was her match to lose. Gets it 6-4 in the third set. Amazing match. I think we're going to have a rematch, and you know what? I think it's going to be a reversal. I think Rybakina does a reversal, and it is Elena Rybakina who gets her first hardcourt title in a major. I think she wins the Australian Open in 3 sets over Sabalenka. And she's going to be motivated by revenge. She's going to be motivated to get her first hardcourt major. And I love how she looks at these courts. In Brisbane, it was pretty one-sided. I do think it'll be closer than that. But I do think Rybakina will have some pretty one-sided sets in this match anyway. And I expect that Rybakina is going to have a statement to start out the year. And like I said in my year-end ranking predictions for WTA, I think Rybakina is going to end top 2 in the world. I think she's going to have a great 2024. She's my pick. She's my pick for the women's side. So there you go. Rybakina beats Sabalenka in 3 sets in the final. It is the top 4 who get to the semis. And Swiatek survives Ostapenko. A lot of fun stuff going on in the draw. Some of the first rounds are crazy. I do have Osaka beating Caroline Garcia, but I don't have Rybakina or Swiatek losing. They are in the semis. They don't lose to Kenin and to Pliskova, but that being said, so many first rounders I'm excited for. Pliskova, Rybakina in particular is one that I'm going to be tuning in for, absolutely. It's fun. Storylines going into this event, there are countless of them. Countless. The women's event, in my opinion, is more compelling than the men's event. The men's event is very compelling as well, but the women's event, I think the storylines are so interesting and so beautifully timed coming into this event. You have Coco with the amazing kind of surge at the end of the year, and we'll see how she can do after now with all the pressure on her in a hardcourt major following that up. And then you have Swiatek, who is absolutely the player with the most momentum of the moment with the run at the WTA Finals. First time she's ever won her first 4 matches in a season this year. So I think Iga is definitely the one to have the eyes on, but she's never made the final of the Australian Open before. So that's just compelling in itself. Then you have Elena Rybakina, who's going to have a statement. She's defending a final here. We'll see what her role is on the tour at the moment. If she has a statement to say, hey, I belong with Swiatek-Ostapenko. I think she belongs there either way, but let's see if she can have a bit of a statement at this Australian Open. And then, of course, Aryna Sabalenka. Sabalenka, she has not lost before the semifinals of a major since Roland Garros of 2022, when Camila Giorgi beat her 6-1, 6-0 in the second and third sets in their third round match at Roland Garros 2022. She did not get a chance to play Wimbledon because of the Belarusian and Russian rule. And then at the US Open, she got to the semis, 5 consecutive Grand Slam semifinals in 5 consecutive majors. Great stat for Sabalenka. That's incredible. That's like an all-time stat. Yeah, very few players reach 5 semifinals in a row, which makes it that much more impressive that back in the day Chris Evert reached 34 consecutive, but that's just a crazy stat. But Sabalenka in 2024, she's trying to reach her 6th consecutive Grand Slam semifinal, and I'm really compelled to see how she does. She's trying to defend a major title for the first time. She played incredible here last year. Statement at the start of the year, but she reached all 4 semifinals, like I said, throughout the season. She reached a final at the US Open with an amazing comeback against Madison Keys, who was playing out of her head. She was down to 7-5-4 there, Keys serving. It was really mostly Keys who kind of threw that game away. But then for the rest of the match, high level from both. Madison Keys was up 4-2 serving in the third set. Sabalenka came back, won, I believe, 10-4 in the third set tiebreak. Sabalenka, though, she does have major semifinal troubles. So if she can get through Goff in the semis, that'd be a great win for her. Anyway, that was it for the Women's Australian Open draw preview. I appreciate you guys joining in. Please stick around for this channel on Anthony's Tennis Hub. Don't forget to subscribe. If you are new, don't forget to like the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to share it around. All of that stuff. Anthony's Tennis Hub. I've got a lot of videos coming up for the Australian Open event. I appreciate you guys watching. I love talking tennis and having people to talk to about it. So I appreciate you guys joining in, and I will see you guys for more stuff Australian Open. I'll see you guys at the next video.